Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is Chris McCabe, co-creator of the Seller Velocity Conference and of e-commerce Chris. Seller Velocity Conference is coming May 1st and 2nd in New York. We're with Yoni of Getita. I believe Getita has sponsored every single year, every single event and conference that we've ever done. Isn't that
Day
true?
one, baby. Day one. That's the Amazon way. Yeah.
That's right. Back in 2018. So we're on year 6 with you. Thank you for your support. Thanks for everything you do to get sellers money that they didn't know that they were going to get. For those of you not familiar, Getita are the reimbursement ticket masters, gurus, experts, and there's a lot of buzz around reimbursements these days. There's a lot of people saying they can do it well. You've been doing it for a long time. I know in New York, you're going to be speaking about this, but answering a lot of questions from people who probably approach you at every event saying, what can you do for me? How much can you get for me? Are there any particular trends or success stories you want to share before we get into the
Yeah,
rest?
sure. So
Yeah.
many sellers are not even aware that that they're owed money. So if you've never heard of this whole topic in the first time, feel free to visit Getita.com. We have a big resource center. With Getita, our mission is pretty simple: is to make sure that Amazon sellers get the maximum FBA reimbursement that they're eligible to receive. And we kind of do it in 3 ways. The first way, we just educate you, teach you how to do it. You can do it yourself, and you're good to go. Okay, you're going to make all this money with reimbursements. You're going to get all your money back. We're not going to see a penny, and that's great. The second option is that you can partner with us. We can do everything for you. Make sure you get the maximum reimbursement that you're eligible to receive. It's free to join Getita. It's free to stay with Getita. There's no subscription. We only charge a fee based on recovery, based on performance. And the third option is that you and your team, you do the maximum you can do to get all the reimbursements that you can. And we encourage that, and we teach you how to do it. But then you can have Getita come in as a backup. So whatever you're missing out on, we can capture that, bring it back to your pocket, and only if we're successful, only then we get rewarded. So the idea is that with this mission of teaching you and partnering with you, we're able to take you to the maximum level of reimbursements that you're eligible to receive. In a nutshell, we go back 18 months. You're able to go back 18 months in all your data and find all these discrepancies that you owe money for. It could be inventory that gets lost, damaged, destroyed, disappeared, disposed, overcharged with fees. And then you go back up to 18 months and then you flush yourself with cash that you're not, you didn't even know that was available for you. And then you hopefully take that cash and reinvest it into your business. You can, spend more money on advertising, at PPC. You can source and launch new products. God forbid, if you have any account suspensions or anything like that, you reach out to Chris, my man, Chris McCabe. All right. So it helps with that, with those costs as well. So we found that the money in cash is really helpful in growing a business. And that's what we're committed to.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of the people listening to us talk already have tickets. They're already planning questions to ask you. They're planning to see you in person. For those of you who don't have tickets to Seller Velocity yet, we're going to include a discount code with this video, of course. But what would you say to anyone who's kind of on the fence about either what questions they should ask themselves about who to hire for this, or what mistakes they might make if they do it themselves? Just a couple quick tips, because I know you're going to get those kinds of questions in person.
Yeah,
But
so quick hit. So if you're trying to do it yourself and you ask for documentation, that can be confusing. Sellers can get really entangled there. So happy to answer or address those questions. Of course, if we do the solution for you, we take care of all the document handling. So it takes the strain and headaches off your hands, and make sure that you spend less time on it, but you get maximum impact, because a lot of sellers just spend all this time trying to get the documents, and they invest a lot of time, but they're not able to get all the reimbursements because they provide the incorrect documents or inaccurate documents, and that can be very problematic. So you invest all this time, but you don't get all this money. Also, we constantly invest in research and development, and we find new type of variations of claims. And the past few weeks, we found a new one. It's called the Getita Lit claim, Lit for LIT, which is lost in transit. So Amazon, a quick story. In the past year, Amazon has changed their API, something they haven't done since forever. Basically, since day one, they had an API for over 25 years. I think they started in 1994. So that's 29 years-ish. They did it last year. That's 2023. Yeah. So about 29 years, They had an old legacy API. They decided to rip that apart and migrate everybody, all the software providers into this new API. And that was a very hard transition for the whole industry. But lo and behold, because of that, we have new access to new data points and data reservoirs. And we're able to connect all the dots and really discover in much more accuracy when Amazon shifts your product from one warehouse to another, right? Or they in transit, right? They move it between one to another. And if a unit gets lost and hasn't been found in the past 60 days, now we're able to really discover that very vividly, present that case information to Amazon, and flush you with further layers of cash and reimbursements that you didn't know that was available. So all these things are new. Happy to discuss it more. If you come to New York, come to the event, and it's really good to learn, educate yourself, connect with leading sellers and business people from this industry, and really prepare your business to the top level.
And so they upgraded to make your life easier, which you're happy about.
Yes.
They upgraded some tools.
Yeah.
Which they don't always do, by the way.
Yeah, the appeals. Let me ask you the appeals today. Yeah. The appeals, they run through Seller Central or through email or both? Because my old days.
So seller, both.
Okay, so
that's always kind of been the case. But Seller Central, it just turned 15 by my count.
15 years old. Happy birthday.
15 years old. And then the tools I used when I was at Amazon would be, which granted they have upgraded those a couple of times since, but the original tools I was using are 17 years old.
Like any good vehicle,
just about ready to graduate and go to college.
Yeah, any good vehicle, within 3 to 5, maybe 7 years, you want to upgrade. And sometimes when you're a $2 trillion company, it takes a bit longer. We understand, we're patient, but we're happy. We're happy about all these changes that really advance this industry forward.
And I'm a fan of talking about, sometimes misinformation floats around out there. People misunderstand things, misconstrue them, or it's just plain misinformation by somebody who's saying they're an expert with something, but they're actually not. Are there any things to avoid in terms of bad ideas, tricks, and shortcuts that might work for a day, but don't work long term, or just bad information floating around that you see out in space?
Yeah, 2 quick hits. First one is some sellers they're under the impression that they don't have to really fully research the discrepancy. So whatever discrepancy they find, instead of going deeper on it, they just blast and open cases with Amazon, and they spray and pray. They say, hey, I'm going to open the same case 10 times. They're going to say no 9 times, and then maybe the 10th time by accident, by mistake, whoever is on the other side, they're just going to give me a reimbursement because they're going to make a mistake. That's not a strategy. That's not the right thing to do. That's kind of, I guess, TOS, in terms of service, to avoid that at all costs. And especially other providers that kind of do that. If they're just spraying and praying, that's not the way to go. It's all really data-driven, mathematics-driven, and you have to be firm on the data and the accuracy of it to make your claim. That's one thing. Second thing, if you're shipping to Amazon, inventory, and you provide documentation, always make sure that's very accurate, and don't mess around. Don't intentionally undership. So you constantly telling Amazon, hey, I'm shipping 1,000 units, but they're only really shipping 900 units, and you're constantly short shipping. In order for them to kind of to blame them and say, hey, you kind of lost these 100 units. It might work once, or it might work once or twice or a few times, but if they're gonna see that you're constantly kind of trying to game the system, and the documents you're providing are pretty much inaccurate, they can strike you hard, and then you have to go visit my man Chris. So my recommendation,
those are abuse cases. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of hoping by now, we went through a lot of those last year. I'm hoping by now people have kind of eased back on the spamming the queues or not researching the discrepancies, like you said, and they've kind of heard horror stories. With what we do, often the horror story circulates once or a couple times around, and then people understand that it's high risk behavior and they stop doing it as often. There will always be somebody out there who thinks that they can still get away with stuff for anything, for any policy.
These gains are not worth it. You might get a few rounds of gains, short-term gains, but long-term you can lose a whole entire business. It's just not worth it. The best strategy winning this in Amazon long-term, or any business, to be honest, is just honesty. Just keep it honest, keep it fair, always be able to prove your truth with documentation, and you should be able to get out of any jam, how painful it is. But if you're really kind of gaming and playing around and you got busted, odds are not in your favor. So
code of conduct.
So just don't go there.
Yeah. What kinds of questions? I mean, you guys do different events. What do you consider good questions when people come up to you? Not that there's bad questions from people who have never dealt with it before. Of course, they've got basic questions.
So questions about FBI auditing and reimbursements, or questions in general on the general trends?
Yeah. Well, like I said, you're kind of in a hot topic area. Reimbursements. This has been something that gets a lot of chatter, lots of LinkedIn posts, lots of social posts. So you must get lots of kind of comments, questions. We were recently at the Prosper show, right? You probably had a lot of people come into your booth talking to you there. So it's probably fresh in your mind, but what are the interesting or what are the questions that give you that encourage you and give you faith that sellers understand what this topic is all?
So sellers, they want to know really what they're owed. That's really the core of it. What are you owed? What are you eligible, really, really eligible to receive? So sellers are constantly on the hunt, or the ones that they realize that they owe money, the ones that don't even realize that they owe money. Once again, this is your wake up call. So so good morning. But you heard about this and you realize that you are owed money. Um, and how and who. So like I said, we have a resource center. You go there. There's a lot of content that we created and videos and training and teaching you how to do it. But one thing you can keep in mind that if you really want to know what is it. So right now, let's say you have a team. You're trying to get all the refunds that you can, and you don't know how much more you can get. So what we can do for you is very simple. We can just run a free audit. You can connect your account to Getira, and we run a free audit, and we give you a report, a detailed report of how much more you're currently leaving behind. Is it $10,000? Is it $100,000? Is it $500,000? Whatever it is, we'll show you in numbers and data. Okay, and we'll also show you the type of claims and the buckets. How old are the claims? Is it 0 to 90 days? Is it 90 to 180 days? 180 days to a year to basically 18 months. So we have all these brackets. So this way you can make an educated decision and seeing how much more you're leaving behind. And you can make an educated decision if you would like to partner with us to get you those tails. And once again, only if we get you those recoveries, only then we charge you a fee, and only then we get rewarded. So typically, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's always a win-win proposition. So if you're curious about how much more you can get, we can provide the data. This way you can make decisions if you want to partner with us, or maybe yell at your team, say, hey, there's another $100,000 we can get. Go educate yourself more, or go talk to Yoni, learn how to do more, whatever it is. We're happy to be that resource for you guys. And yeah, so
in my experience, people can always use more money. I don't think you have to be an expert to understand that you could use more money as a business owner.
Yeah, we see, money seems to constantly prove its effectiveness in being very useful resource for businesses. Sourcing, launching, hiring, insuring, all these things just have layers of cost, and recovering all these funds that you did not expect can really help with that. There's a rule of thumb, by the way. If you're wondering, potential, there is a rule of thumb. It's between 1 to 3% from your FBA revenue, right? The annual discrepancy can be 1 to 3%. So if you're doing, let's say, $1 million a year on Amazon, 1 to 3% could be $10,000 to $30,000 a year that you need to potentially audit and reconcile and get recovery for. If you're doing 100 million a year, that could be 1 to 3 million. So and on it goes. Another way to look at it is that for every 100 units you ship to FBA, between 1 to 3 units is going to get affected one way or another with the discrepancy throughout its life cycle with Amazon's fulfillment centers. So yeah, you do your own rule of thumb. If you're doing $1 million a year, you see only recover $5,000, $10,000 for the past year, it could be you're living a tail of $10,000 to $20,000. And if you can't seem to get it, we're here to help with that.
It's an interesting parallel to what we do, because often people have a listing that gets suspended for maybe say 21 days, and they don't realize that they could have saved a lot of grief and a lot of revenue and gotten it reinstated faster, like in 7 days. And so there's or even quicker perhaps in some cases, but let's just say 14 days worth of sales that they lost. That's kind of a parallel to what you guys are doing in terms of there was money there that you didn't know was there, but if you do things a little bit differently, it can be yours, right? If you have the right strategy.
Yeah, definitely. If you lose any day of sales, it can be very damaging for your BSR, for best sales rank. So when you get affected of a suspension or account suspension, man, you got to put the rocket fuel on it and get back on track as soon as possible. No reason to, wait a moment or even be stingy. I would apply any capital or funds to make sure that my machinery keeps on pumping money, generating revenue. Because when I got suspended over a decade ago, my first suspension, I remember it was 2015. So that's about 9 years ago. That was
right when I was starting out.
Yeah, you were probably answering my my appeals. And man, that was I still wear the scars. We were doing about $1 million a month in revenue, over 12 million a year at that point.
Yeah,
We had a
yeah.
whole staff of a dozen plus people. We had over $1 million in FBA stock. It was so stressful and had no idea, no clue what to do. There was no like environment like you have today. There was no e-commerce, Chris, right? So we couldn't get out of it. I'll be honest with you. The account was suspended for I want to say 6+ weeks, and
Hmm.
it was really brutal, hard recovery. The only reason I believe we did recover is because we owed Amazon money for Amazon lending. We owe,
Oh, for
we
lending.
only
Yeah,
yeah
right.
we owed over $300,000 at that point, and whatever we
Hmm.
tried to do with sales performance, we're not unsuccessful. But then all of a sudden, Amazon lending is like, hey, how come you're not paying your loans back?
Yeah.
So happy,
They gave you another
yeah,
chance.
glad
They
you
gave you another
asked. Yeah,
chance.
look,
Right.
the right hand gives us money, the other hand says we're doing something wrong, and we're trying to
Hmm.
communicate it, and we couldn't do it. So they really held our hands and said, okay, the issue here, the issue there, and provide this. We're really able to pinpoint, the root causes and what we did wrong, how we're going to prevent it, and what we're going to do going forward. All that structure. Um, and they were like my e-commerce, Chris, back in the day, because I owed them 300 grand. Hopefully people don't owe you 300 grand for your service every time you reinstate them.
No,
um,
not a few hundred grand.
but whatever
Yeah.
symbolic price it is, it's more than worth it, because once we were able to get back the business on track, it was like oxygen. And just be
Hmm.
brutally fast and quick and agile, and bring your business back on track, because any minute you linger, it just can be very, very hard to come back.
I mean, a lot of people we deal with don't have a rainy day fund. We preach this and we tell everyone just in case there's an accident, something goes wrong. Amazon could make a mistake. You could have trouble with a competitor. You could make a mistake. Lots of things lead to account and listing takedowns. But every business owner needs to have reserves or some sort of rainy day fund. So it's a lot easier to replenish that if they're working with you guys and finding some extra cash that they didn't think that they had, right?
It's actually just give me
One hand washes the other.
no,
That's
yeah,
everything's part of the same
you gave me a
ecosystem.
strong idea. If you're doing $1 million
Yeah.
a year, and you use Gatita, and we recover, I don't know, $10,000 to $30,000, you should keep some of it, if not most of it, for a rainy day. So if God forbid you get
Yeah.
suspended, boom, you got the right, or maybe I think Chris, I think you have like an insurance policy almost. Look, what's the other product you have or service?
Yeah. No, we have monthly services as well.
So yeah,
So
you drip that in. You
yeah,
drip that in, and once the God forbid
that's right.
your vehicle goes into quote unquote an accident, you call your
Hmm.
policy. You call on your policy with e-commerce Chris, and hopefully the Gatita recoveries will offset that and beyond. So you constantly have this constantly well-oiled machine that is geared for shocks. To absorb shocks and
Hmm.
imbalances, and you really you're on the flywheel. You're moving up instead of other sellers who don't really maximize on their recovery potential, or don't even have a contingency plan for suspension, or they don't
That's
even know who
it.
to go to.
That's it.
They can go out of business real quick once issues happen. So you don't want to. You probably don't want to be in that kind of corner. You want to be in the corner where it's your business is fully optimized for compliancy, reimbursements, advertising, sourcing, launching, hiring, all these things. This is the art of business in our industry, where all these layers you will really partner with the best of breed in the industry, so you can really optimize every layer, and be
Hmm.
be a be at the, be at the head of it instead of the tail of it.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you have to run a well-oiled machine just to keep ahead of your competition and to keep up with whatever Amazon's doing with you or to you sometimes. Um, otherwise, there's so much at stake now. It's a lot different from 2015, where competition wasn't the same level. Still had account suspensions then versus now, but so many millions of dollars at stake with most of the clients that we're working with month in month
I
out.
would say
You can't really
probably,
afford that many
I think it's probably tens,
mistakes.
if
I
not
mean,
hundreds of millions of sellers, of
yeah.
dollars, on the line, with sellers being, having compliance issues.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking back at seller velocity, I mean, the typical attendee is going to be similar to our typical client. 8-figure brands, maybe a high 8-figure or low 8 to a high 8-figure brands. Some 9-figure brands will be in attendance, and otherwise high 7-figure brands. So high level strategy. That's what we're talking about this year in seller velocity. Once again, May 1st and 2nd in New York. If you're listening, you already have a ticket. Great. We will see you there. And if not, certainly consider joining us. It's going to be 2 full days. We have a conference day and a VIP day. We're going to have all the information with this video and a discount code too. So Thanks again to Yoni and Gatita for supporting us. And I will be seeing you soon in New York.
See you in May, guys.